thank the committee for being here in Newark. We appreciate your presence. Thank NJIT, the president of this university, for allowing this space to be used for this function. We deeply appreciate it, and I'll try to make it to as many as I can. I heard some comments from the first one. Some of them were okay. Some of them I had had to take umbrage with. I would like, if you allow me, to dedicate my comments, and they're not a lot, to two people that I think really need to be highlighted historically, because the reason that we're here today, some people are here for different reasons and for different motivations. Obviously, my name is on that ballot as well next year, but ultimately, I think I'm here for a larger reason in my mind here in the city of Newark. I would like to dedicate these comments to two people. Robert Smalls is one of them. The other person is Fannie Lou Hamer. Robert Smalls was a slave in the Carolinas who, in fact, commandeered a Confederate boat and with 17 slaves on it, took it to the north, to the Union side. And before he did that, he rendezvoused with his wife and kids and picked them up and put them on a boat, and they left. That's just the beginning of the story. The end of the story is that Congress paid him money, half the money for the boat that he had, and after the Civil War, he actually bought his master's home. This man came back and was elected to the state assembly, elected to the state senate, and served in Congress for as long as Reconstruction existed in the South. It's an amazing story. It's an amazing American story. I'm sure he didn't know what a referendum was or what the assembly's role was at the time, what the state senate's role at the time was. But I think that because of him, a lot of us are sitting up here today. The other person is Fannie Lou Hamer, who found out before she ran for office, just 2 years before that she could actually register to vote at a SNCC meeting. Her family was sharecroppers. Sharecroppers are people who stayed on a plantation and worked for food or housing, right? She's from a large, huge family, right? We know this lady in history of New Jersey because she showed up here in Atlantic City as the Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party to make sure that the Democratic Party was not segregated and completely white. She did that and ran for office later. Because of her efforts, the 1965 Voting Rights Act was passed a year before she showed up in New Jersey and Atlantic City, fighting for her ability to vote. I'm sure she could not read everything on a referendum, on a ballot. I'm sure she couldn't go through all of the ins and outs of what legislation was, or could really explain to you the particulars of every policy that existed or how this thing worked. But that wasn't an excuse then, and it's not an excuse now to prevent her from having access to democracy. That wasn't an excuse, and it shouldn't be, as we're figuring this out. Those are two people that I thought sitting here at NJIT in the city of Newark on Martin Luther King Boulevard, that it was appropriate for me to talk about before and hopefully I didn't disobey any rules to say their names, but before I gave my comments. And so I just want to thank the opportunity to speak here today. I think what we're doing strikes at the very heart of our democracy. In fact, it speaks volumes to what we just witnessed on the November Tuesday election. The use of the line on our ballots was and has always been an anti-democratic practice. As leaders in New Jersey, we have long known it was wrong, yet we allowed it to persist for decades. And while the judge is poised to strike the line completely, this committee has a crucial choice. We can either cling to political gamesmanship and undermine fair representation and chip away at public trust that's already eroded, or take a decisive step forward to make democracy the sole priority. We really have two paths in front of us, right? We could attempt to manipulate and build a line by another name, knowing that it creates barriers to true democratic choice and reinforce a sense of disenfranchisement among voters, or we could end this practice now. No political maneuvering, no more power plays. We have the opportunity right here, right now, to respect the court's decision on a ballot design and commit ourselves to a clear democratic path forward. It is our moment to leave behind outdated practices and embrace a fair way to conduct our primaries and all of our elections. My hope is that this committee's goal is very clear, is fair, is accessible, and simple. A ballot that empowers every voter and every candidate equally, even if that person was Fannie Lou Hamer or Robert Smalls. This isn't complicated. We know how to make our ballots fair, and the people of New Jersey deserve a process that honors their voices and reflects our state's true diversity and values. So I urge you to put any ideas aside and to move that would take us in an anti-democratic way and move righteously into a new era of transparency and equity in our elections. Last week, in the wake of the election, I said democracy was sacrificed at the altar of indifference. Now, everybody might not believe that, but I do. We must recognize that the line in any version of it breeds that very indifference. And let's be clear, fixing the ballot design is just the beginning of what we should do to strengthen democracy in New Jersey. There are a few things that we should be thinking about doing. Same-day registration. We should be thinking about allowing 16-year-olds to register to vote for school board elections. We should be thinking about how to get more participation and not less. And get rid of policies that discourage voting and make sure they don't exist because they don't exist by accident. This ballot design is a first step to let the working people and the working families of New Jersey know that we are going to allow access to every single person in every little thing, even on accident or on purpose, by design or by happenstance. We're going to get rid of any obstacles to make the process fair and democratic, either real or perceived. It is our only step, our only path, our only journey forward to what true democracy looks like in New Jersey. And we must embrace it. We must embrace it wholeheartedly and completely. And with that, we embrace inclusivity, transparency, ease of access, robust participation for all, and discouraging anything that creates apathy and disengagement so we can get what we just witnessed in the last national election. God bless you, Godspeed to you, and thank you for giving me the opportunity today.
Thank you, Mayor. Do we have any questions for the Mayor?
I do. I wanted to, we've asked several other speakers this question about doing away with the primary and just having a general. What are your thoughts around that?
Well, that's interesting, and you know, ultimately, I think there is some use for primary elections, but if we believe that having just a general election is going to create more democracy, what I do believe what we should do is begin to change when our elections take place. That instead of having this off year, that we should participate as the same as the rest of Americans and have it in a year when most Americans participate in a national race. That we have our governor's race at the same time that the national elections take place. That we begin to stop these off-ballot years and begin to do it collectively so that we get more participation and greater participation from the electorate.
Thank you, Mayor. And once again, we definitely appreciate being here in Newark and NJIT. We have another question. Someone put the word.
I just want to say thank you, Mayor. It's always a pleasure to have you, and thank you for participating.
Thank you. Appreciate you.